Okay. It's so good to be back. So as you heard, my name is Kirsten Crow. I have been a staff member here at RYLA for 11 years, and I actually attended just like you as a conferee in 2015. Today, I'll be sharing about my life and perspective post-brain injury with post-concussion syndrome, dysautonomia, and migraine disease. I'm 27 now, but I sustained the concussion as a senior in high school when I was 17. I collapsed towards the end of an indoor track race, and my head caught my fall. It altered the way I attended my senior year and sidetracked my plan to go to college right out of high school. It also affected my ability to work and live independently. 9.5 years later, I continue to experience the symptoms of my injury every day, while still requiring therapy intervention. As a 17-year-old, you begin to envision a future with a mere idea of what you'd like to do and who you want to be. For me, that meant becoming a veterinarian and continuing my running career. You see, my dream was taking form until it wasn't. But in our visions lay unexpected outcomes. And January 14th, 2017 was the day that completely shifted my reality. Perceiving it as good or bad was determined by the lens I chose. So from that point on, I realized that my life, my story, and the impact I could bring to those around me rested in my hands. Today, I hope to show you what it means to live instead of simply being alive. Today, I hope to show you that you too can use your story to create an impact on those around you. I'm going to play a 12-minute video detailing parts of my recovery as well as some educational awareness because I want to be an advocate for the concussion community and share knowledge that I wish I had. Also, if you look in your programs later on, you'll see a PDF QR code, and that will have more information regarding concussion education if you are curious. So I'm going to get this started. When I opened my eyes, after laying blacked out for a couple of seconds,
Everything hurts.
I entered an unfamiliar world, cloaked in fake familiarity.
I'd asked you if you could stand up, and you thought you totally could, and you're like, yeah, I don't feel too bad. Doctor had to catch you, and if he didn't catch you, you would have fallen down.
The day I hit my head, my friends lost me. And I have survived 100% of my worst days.
So much of this journey is on my own.
You know, we're all on a path of not knowing. And it just happens to be that my path has a lot of not knowing and uncertainty, and I just have to go with it.
And life is so tragically beautiful and amazing. And words can't really be used to describe certain things.
I don't understand why your level of joy after success has to correlate to how big that success was.
1.28 miles in 26 minutes, and that is the farthest and the longest I have walked in 4 years. Growth comes when you're uncomfortable, and I was uncomfortable when I was dizzy. You know, sometimes it's so incredibly difficult to be able to see my dreams clearly. It's so incredibly difficult to think that they will ever become my reality.
Reading for 8 minutes is such an easy thing for most people to do. I've got a lot of dreams, man, and I've got a lot of plans, and I'm going to do them.
For over 7 years,
I've experienced a constant stream of symptoms and limitations. This meant I could give up and let it consume me, or shift my perspective and learn to build upon this new foundation. I chose the latter. Trying to live life with this brain and body has been quite difficult. I experience a wide range of symptoms, from a constant headache, dizziness, fatigue, low stimuli tolerance, and much more. It took me 6 years to have enough tolerance to experience any sort of life outside of my house and doctor's appointments. I have to use a range of management tools to do them, and still experience discomfort, but I feel very grateful because I became so familiar with isolation. Things like walking, standing, talking, reading, car rides, lights, sounds, along with many others, provoke an increase in symptoms. Early on, the high level of symptoms and sensitivities kept me from barely leaving my room. To understand the complexities of recovery and give a voice to those with invisible injuries, I'd like to define a concussion. As a disclaimer, though, this following section is not medical advice. Nothing I say here replaces a medical professional, so please use at your own discretion. A concussion is a form of traumatic brain injury. It is the result of an acceleration and deceleration of the brain that causes injury to the neurons and disruption to the electrical signals, which leads to symptoms. It takes the brain about 3 to 6 weeks to fully recover metabolically, but symptoms can persist longer than that. When one or more symptoms last beyond 3 months, it is known as post-concussion syndrome, or persistent post-concussive symptoms, aka PCS. Symptoms can fall under one or all of these 7 categories. Autonomic, which controls processes in your body that you don't think about, like heart rate and blood pressure. Headache. Vestibular, which is your balance system that provides your brain with information of where you are in space. Cervical. Oculomotor, which is how your eyes work together, track an object, and perceive depth. Emotional, and cognitive. Dysfunctions across these areas can affect one's ability to know where they are in space, feel steady, see precisely, remain upright, manage stress, read, talk, and honestly anything and everything you can think of. Remember, this is your brain. It controls all sensations. In order to regain proper functioning after a brain injury, the brain undergoes neuroplasticity. This is when it tries to rewire itself by building new neural pathways, using other pathways to bypass broken connections, and/or making new neurons. Neuroplasticity simply means the brain is changing. Think sprouting and rerouting. While it happens automatically, like when learning something new, we can enact these changes by performing repetitive actions, just like you would by lifting weights to build muscle. Concussion rehab is dependent on which areas are affected and can be in combination of more than one therapy, like vision and vestibular therapy, as well as autonomic retraining. Another big part of recovery, though, is learning how to regulate your nervous system, because after brain injury, your nervous system can become more sensitive, so incorporating things like deep breathing can be very helpful. The range of practitioners that could be used to direct recovery can be a sports medicine doctor, physical therapist, a functional neurologist, but ultimately, it will take a team. When you're looking for a provider, it's imperative that this practitioner is up to date on concussion protocol, because far too many people have been misled, misunderstood, and unfortunately, misdiagnosed. A trained physician or certified athletic trainer should be able to diagnose a concussion by mechanism of injury, presence of symptoms, and tests like eye tracking, balancing, memory, and reaction time. An urgent care or ER will be able to rule out life-threatening risks immediately after a head injury. But you should get in with a concussion-literate provider as soon as you can, because they will set you on track for following a concussion protocol. One should go back to the ER if there are any sudden changes in symptoms, like a severe increase in headache, vision changes, or slurred speech. If you suspect a concussion during sport, sit out.
Symptoms may not occur right away, and after injury, your brain enters an energy deficit that makes you susceptible to a second concussion, which increases the probability for prolonged recovery and, in rare cases, can be fatal. Remember, your health is way more important than any sport, so please make sure you listen to your body and take the time needed to recover. Going back, a term that we covered earlier that's good to remember is dysautonomia. It's used to describe a dysfunction within the autonomic nervous system. It doesn't just happen after brain injury, though, and can also be triggered by a virus or underlying genetic conditions like EDS. Another diagnosis you heard me mention earlier is migraine disease. It's very stigmatized and is not the same as a headache. It is a complex neurological disease with the root cause believed to be genetics. It causes sensitization of the nervous system, and there are over 30 associated symptoms occurring at different phases of an attack, which can be extremely debilitating. You hear me saying migraine without an S because migraines can suggest a series of isolated incidents rather than a chronic condition. People who experience migraine disease experience migraine attacks. Like many conditions, migraine lies on a spectrum. Some may experience a few attacks a year, while others may have chronic or daily attacks. While there is no cure, you can go from chronic to episodic and even into remission. Migraine disease, like vestibular dysfunction and dysautonomia, can have different types of diagnoses, as you see here, with 3PD in vestibular dysfunction and POTS under dysautonomia. Treatments for these conditions can range from medications to lifestyle changes. Treatments for me depend on what my body needs, can tolerate, and what our primary focus is. I work with a team in order to cover all of the dysfunctions, do many different forms of rehab, and use a combination of medications. I help manage these conditions with many tools: trekking poles for walking, compression socks for blood pooling, a weighted blanket for car rides and sleeping, which helps with dizziness, pacing activities throughout the day, and much more. Taking care of my body has turned into a full-time job, and every day consists of working towards my recovery. Maybe I do more of a calculated rehab, like vestibular and vision therapy. Or heart rate-based training on the stationary bike. A lot of times, it's the things that go unmeasured, the constant check-ins, messages of safety. You'd think there'd be time off, but the only space that feels to exist measures the weeks between Botox appointments or infusions. I am constantly putting myself into the space of discomfort in the name of recovery and simply living. But I've been learning how to react differently towards the symptoms and uncovering my subconscious fears. Pain reprocessing therapy and somatic tracking, as it's called. Managing these symptoms requires a lot of tools, as you saw, but I've become pretty good at being prepared. Always carrying my bag with medications, Gammacore, which I do 6 times a day, and Cephaly at least once. Nonetheless, having a dynamic disability can become exhausting and overwhelming as it's never ending. So, I try to find the balance. I'd like to say that many disabilities are invisible, inconsistent, and unpredictable. I'd also like to point out that the disability community is one that anyone can join, which is why advocacy and supportive accessibility is very important. Disability isn't a bad word, and it doesn't automatically equate with being an inspiration. Those qualities don't come with a diagnosis. It's just how one chooses to live. While recovery is a lot of mindset and hard work, it's also luck and privilege.
I want to recognize that I am privileged to have access to the medical care and family friend support that I do. And lastly, I want you to remember that every brain injury, illness, and recovery is different from one another. What may work for someone may not help another, and specific symptoms can express themselves differently in each person. Just how everyone's path in life leaves their own unique footprint.
All right. So, on the theme of true or false, one of the very obvious truths in my life is that it flipped upside down. The funny thing is that I only realized the severity 1 to 2 years in, when I had to stop my vestibular and neurooptometric rehab because I was getting significantly worse. After stopping, we realized we needed to support the constant migraine attack. So we dove into treatment, trialing many different medications over many years. I also got prism lenses, which is what I'm wearing, to help with my vision because my eyes were not working properly. I lacked appropriate depth perception and the ability to focus my eyes. In June of 2017, when I started the rehab, I thought it would only be 8 weeks, and then I'd be back to normal life. I'd be able to go to college, I'd be able to run with a team I was confirmed to run with, but clearly it has turned into 9+ years and a lifetime of learning to manage these conditions post-brain injury. Having been on such a long journey where the early years showed little progress and even at times regression, I had to learn to celebrate the seemingly small wins. In 2018, I could only ride for 2 minutes on the stationary bike before needing to lay down for at least an hour feeling extremely symptomatic. Now I can ride for 45 minutes. Before I can read for 15 minutes, I could only read for 30 seconds. And let me tell you, those 30 seconds were brutal. Being able to watch a 40-minute TV show or go on a 15-minute walk without being completely debilitated by it are huge wins. I used to be unable to tolerate a hug or someone sitting on the bed with me because of the extreme dizziness I felt from it. I couldn't even be handed something or make eye contact without getting lightheaded. Forget about entering a store or even being in the car longer than 30 minutes. Couldn't do it. And most of those activities can still be difficult today. There were times when a 15-minute conversation with a friend would knock me down for days, and there were days where I could barely even speak to my parents, let alone get out of bed. But the point here is not sympathy. It's if I had let all of these limitations keep me from trying again or finding support tools, I would not be where I am today. One of the biggest beauties I have noticed in the recent years is that this part always makes me emotional, is that I am getting me back. And it is something I cherish so dearly. Oh, okay. But thank you. But here's the kicker. This entire journey would feel differently if I hadn't realized that the now is something precious. Many times we miss the present in its most authentic space. We spend it thinking about the future or replaying the past. And when we do that, we forget to admire the life that's unfolding around us, as tumultuous or beautiful as it may be. What could have been crisp memories become faded into the background. You see, the past can try to guide us and the future can try to drive us, but only in the present moment can our existence be nurtured. Only in the present moment does living exist. I'm often asked what my biggest regret was after my injury. My answer would be not recognizing the worth of a moment before it became a memory. My younger self always thought that there would be a next time, that there would be a next season, a next year, a next race. If I had known my ability to do things would be taken away and that I wouldn't be able to experience life without layers upon layers of symptoms, I would have held on to the sensations of what it felt like to be living and not just alive. For me to learn what it meant to live and how to create an impact, I had to begin from within. Granted, I had many years of isolation and time to myself, so that's what I did. I started journaling, both in my head and on paper, which led me to start sharing the raw emotions behind chronic conditions, my experience, perspective. At first, I shared on Instagram so people could understand what I was going through. I was out of school for 7 weeks, and most people probably had no idea what happened, so I shared in hopes that people would understand. And I kept sharing in hopes for people to understand. But I realized that most people never will. Living with an invisible injury or condition is tough. There's a really odd balance between advocacy and transparency on one side, and then there's a side that's just tired of fighting to be seen. But what I did find was that people who didn't experience something similar could relate. Seeking understanding was no longer the goal. Connecting with people was. My epiphany arose. Our emotions connect us all, despite differing circumstances. You see, life is painted by the difference of beauty and pain, but it is everything in between. Infinite pieces of our book are shared across the world. We are the only ones who know the exact meaning behind each word we write, but if we share it, people can connect in their own ways. It can be challenging because being vulnerable means deconstructing our outer layers to show the cracks and bruises beneath. But by showing our true story, by being our most authentic self, we can light someone else's path. We can have an impact. In embracing our own truth, however changing that may be, we must also not assume the reality of others based on their appearance or their actions. By assuming, we immediately take the pen out of their hand and begin to write a story that we know nothing about. I noticed the state of my mindset was important for how I wanted my story to be written, because the circumstance was, and is very much out of my control. Similarly, to the future. The uncertainties of life are very prevalent, and that can be scary. I have had to, chosen to, step into a mindset of radical acceptance while becoming friends with the unknown and walking hand in hand with change. But I'd be lying if I didn't say that there were periods where I found myself in a lot of doubt. I use the words if, not when, like if I get better, if I can do that. And that's fair because, the future is uncertainty, and we don't know how my brain's going to react to certain things. So it's fair to feel that way, and it is real. But I was using it in a way where I was putting a cap on possibilities. Up until about 3 to 4 years ago, I didn't feel as if I could achieve certain things without being completely symptom-free. I told myself I cannot go to college until I am symptom-free. As the years went on, I started to realize that being symptom-free was not realistic at all. That was not going to be my reality. So I had to shift my narrative. I had to try. So this spring, I tried my first online self-paced college class. Oh my God, I'm gonna cry. And I would not have done that if I kept the narrative, I cannot do X, Y, Z until my symptoms are gone. Because I realized that wasn't a reality for me. I am constantly figuring out how to live with limitations, testing the boundaries, and trying not to let a single narrative write my future. But still, I can face doubts and fears just like anyone else. Working through those moments involve first recognizing those fear thoughts and then shifting the narrative into something more supportive. Saying something like, even though I'm experiencing difficulties right now, I know things can change, is way better than things will never get better, I can't get through this. I always think, we're given these limitless minds. Why would we put a definitive end on an infinite line? My belief is that hope can exist independently from any circumstance. It doesn't mean hope is easy or that things won't feel scary, but it sure is possible. Let's think about setting dreams. When you set goals that reach outside your comfort zone, everything is terrifying. Everything feels too big, too threatening, too much of a drop if you are to fall. But I don't think the people who reach those heights do it unafraid. They do it with fright coursing through their veins and doubts pushing to make their way to the front of the crowded mind. They take those feelings as a right of way, as a gift only given to those who dared. They set forth on a path where they've never been before, because at the end of the day, those who try never actually fail. What you begin to realize is each step along the way is an experience you wouldn't have had you not dared to seek discomfort. We harness this power to change our narrative in our ability to sit in the seat of awareness, to be the gatekeeper and the watcher of our thoughts. There are so many emotions in this dance of life. We often try to keep our mind occupied because we are afraid to feel certain emotions or sensations. But there is room for everything. For the sadness, the grief, anxiety, the pain, the frustration, the anger. Noticing them is where we create a level of safety and cultivate growth. You see, our mind is like our house. We don't always have a say on who knocks on the door, but we do have some power in how they pass through. If we were to look at emotions as if they were characters or people, we might begin to view their presence in our home, our mind, as something we can guide. For example, doubt and negativity show up and walk right in through the front door. I thank them for showing up and explore what sent them an invitation, but then I show them the back door to leave. Sometimes they linger, but I try not to grip onto their presence or let their occupancy in my home feel like an invasion. I ask confidence to stay for tea, absorbing their unbreakable energy. I invite curiosity for dinner, listening intently to the intricate flow of ideas, allowing my mind space to expand. I hug sadness and dance with happiness. I breathe with frustration and anger, and I speak to fear. Ultimately, if I take the seat of awareness, if you take the seat of awareness, you are able to allow all of these emotions and sensations to exist. And the ones you put more focus on are the ones that show up more in your life. In order to grow, I had to be with myself. I had to find peace within the pain and comfort within the unknown. I had to learn the true power of positivity and the humbling act of patience. I learned to be present and dance on whatever floor may be beneath me, because life itself is simply just a dance. And when you dance, you don't try to get to a place in the room, but you dance to enjoy the tune. I learned that joy and gratitude are not based on external factors, and they are feelings we must cultivate and nurture by choice. I also gave myself permission to feel lost, because I learned it's an opportunity to find yourself and create plans that wouldn't have existed in other realities. And for a while, I held so tightly onto the identities I once had. But I realized that I am not just a label in a color-coordinated filing system. And even more so, these labels, these identities, they are meant to be evolutionary. Through these lessons, but even more so with connecting with those around me, I realized the impact I can have. Because of my brain injury, the chronic conditions that arose, and my acceptance with it all, I became more me. I became a better stranger. I became someone who sees the world through a different lens. Someone who realized that living has nothing to do with achieving things, but everything to do with intentionally being, feeling, and connecting. Today, I shared that the life I once knew collapsed, that every day is unpredictable with symptoms, and that I cannot live the way that able-bodied people do, nor anywhere close to the way I used to. But amongst the rough weather of ever-changing skies, I hold so much gratitude. I am in awe of its raw beauty, with rains of uncertainty glistening with drops of hope, thunders of new identities, and burials of old ones. Wind-cleared fields now lay for seeds of redesigned dreams to be planted. But my ability to see these rainbows and dance with the storm is no different than yours. I know that I am not the only one in this room that has a story or something that they are passionate about. I think one of the greatest things that we can do for those that surround us is lead with kindness, authenticity, and a passion for greater good. Thank you. I'm going to share a story and then a poem I wrote that ties everything we've talked about together. So the following is a story I once heard. It's a story of a little grasshopper and his master in a temple a long time ago. Grasshopper had to be trained in the deep parts of Buddhism. During training, the master took little grasshopper into the back of a temple to a room which was usually kept locked and asked grasshopper what he saw. Grasshopper said, "I see a pool." "But what else do you see?" said master. "Go closer, but don't get too close." Grasshopper slowly edged towards the pool, his eyes widened. "I see bones. Bones in the bottom of the pool." But Grasshopper also saw a plank of wood stretching from one end of the pool to the other. The master explained that is not water, that is concentrated acid, and those bones are from little novices like him who fell in. "In 7 days," said the master, "you will have to walk across that plank as part of your test." He then brought Grasshopper outside to the courtyard where there was another plank of wood exactly the same length, width, and thickness as the one over the pool, but this one was suspended 2 feet above the ground on 2 bricks. Grasshopper began practicing, and just after half a day he could run across that plank. He can do it blindfolded and backwards and even dance across it. After 7 days, the master brought him back into the room to the plank suspended over the pool of acid and told him to walk. Grasshopper could see the bones in the bottom, and as he walked, he wasn't as steady as he was in the courtyard. His knees began to shake a bit, and then he began to sway. You know what happened? I'm going to tell you, but in the meantime, I'm going to share my poem. I want to ask you who you are, but I'm afraid this question wouldn't take us that far. We are born to feel as if we need a title. We grow up being asked what we want to be and are expected to say anything except, "I want to just be me." A doctor, a writer, a teacher, an artist, a one-word answer is what society expects, but what if I told you the possibilities were limitless? You see, we are not solely defined by the job we choose to pursue. It's like society wrote us a deadline and told us when the definition of who we are is due. But who we are is composed of a million things. It's like within us is a universe and all that it brings. It's unaligned, undefined, and most importantly, unconfined throughout all of mankind. Perhaps it's the thoughts we think both consciously and unconsciously, and our response to our environment as it's forever changing both horrendously and beautifully. Or our journeys through the unexpected experiences and the way we live our life. Our expressions through honesty, empathy, and vulnerability, or the impact we have on those around us. Maybe it's the things that go undiscussed, like our scars that tell the stories of our battles through both familiar and untouched territories. But maybe, just maybe, we are everything intertwined, like the title of a book yet to be assigned and a storyline not yet defined. But there are many people who believe they don't have a choice in life, and they couldn't be farther from the truth. We do indeed live in an uncontrollable world where tomorrow is not guaranteed, but within the unpredictable, our perspective is controllable. It's how we choose to see the world when suddenly flooded with anger and hate. It's our attitude when we wake and our ability to open-mindedly communicate, to agree to disagree, yet continue to fight for what's right, to smile in the darkness and continue to hope that one day we will find or create the light. To be grateful when we have nothing and patient when we want something. Circumstances of the day may not be what we assume, but we can choose the rhythm of our sway when the wind beckons in the opposite way. This ability to realize a choice gives us a voice within the unheard and a will that cannot be deterred. I don't know if you know this, but it's proven that thought alone can alter the brain because neurons that fire together wire together, so it is up to you to decide how you want to change. We must become the best versions of ourselves rather than always trying to be better than someone else. I reckon we must be rich in life, but this does not live in money status. We must be rich with feelings and experience. It's about how much you laughed and loved and all the times you failed but rose above. It's all the days you chose to heal from the things you did not want to feel and the endless lessons you once learned that now tell you where to turn. It's how much of the world you welcomed within and how much to the world you breathlessly chose to give. For all of that is priceless. Listen. Life isn't easy. It will knock you down and leave you bleeding. You can choose to give up or choose to keep on believing. Yet we all experience life in a different way. So while I say you have an option to choose your happiness, for many, that task is simply the utmost hardest. Depression and anxiety can quietly creep in the silence, which is why I want to shed a light on those fighting mental illness. Although I cannot take away all the discomfort you feel, I know that there's infinite happiness, love, and light already within you. Sometimes it just gets buried beneath the weight of what you're going through. Your symptoms manifest in secret, but I know they are real, for you are not invisible and you are not alone. And you are more than a diagnosis on a piece of paper that makes you feel like being loved is conditional. I promise you we all deserve love. It's a fact written in stone. So don't count yourself out or belittle your light. Don't make yourself smaller because they say you're too bright. And to those who try to dim their flame, you are worthy of space, you matter, and the world with you in it is surely much better. Listen, life can be so short, yet so vast. So we must find our why, the reason behind our words, and the cause of the wind beneath our wings as we try to fly. This is living with intention, instead of living just to die. But unfortunately, not many people are living while they're alive, and to their grave they carry regret of all the things they didn't do because they chose to allow their what-ifs and doubts become a threat and let life slip right through. So why do you exist? If you search for a purpose, would that be a guide for something you can provide? Or is it a never-ending mission with nothing external to find? For maybe the meaning of life has always been just to be, but you need to be the one that decides what that exactly means. Our power is hidden within those limitless confines. There are no real fine lines of guidelines telling you who or how or why to be. You see, that word me is created from cultivating your own reality, and together we can make a difference. But even as one, you are far from powerless. Get this. One seed can grow one flower, but from that flower it can grow multiple seeds, and those multiple seeds can grow into multiple flowers. It's as simple as cause and effect, and before you know it, your impact will triple. Just how one drop in the ocean is all it takes to create a ripple. You must see that our space is constantly filled by the energy we unknowingly release. If we remember to discard the negativity and share the compassion and kindness of loving peace, we can move together collectively. We all have our differences. Society puts emphasis on what we believe in, our gender orientation, and to whom we are kin. But there are a million things that beautifully shape us into individuals. If we respect them, they do not form division. But if we perfect them, we allow society to make the decision of how we are envisioned. Being different brings unmatched textures into existence. So I want you to embrace your individuality, take down your mask, and face reality. But I also want you to put down your paintbrush, to stop painting judgment on others, for it is not up to you to determine their colors. It's scary to be you, but you are the only you, and I swear that is true. So continue to chase after the dreams that were denied. Walk through this world with your mind open wide, and always harness your authentic truth with pride. Thank you. So, prior to reading that poem, I left off asking if you knew what happened to little Grasshopper as he struggled to walk across that plank. Well, he fell in. And you know what the master did? He laughed. Grasshopper began splashing around, but realized he wasn't burning. And that's when the master said, "Little Grasshopper, it's not acid, it's water. We just put the bones in for special effects, that's all." So, what pushed little Grasshopper in? Fear. Fear pushed him in. For if he knew it was just water below him, he would have ran across it, just as he did in the courtyard. You see, in life, it's our fears. It's the what-ifs, the doubts, and the uncontrollable that keeps us from reaching our full potential. But we mustn't let it. We mustn't let our struggles or society keep us confined. We shouldn't wait for life to unwind. We have to let go and exist undefined. And if we go looking for something to find, I really, really hope we start with what's inside. So will you choose to see a pool of water or choose to see a pool of acid? Will you tell yourself tomorrow or next time or next year, or tell yourself today? Because if not now, then when? Will you choose to be the difference? Because if not you, then who? Will you walk your own path and look back on the footsteps you tracked with pride? Or will you continue to your last day living a lie? Will you choose to live instead of simply being alive? And what will you think the next time someone asks? Actually, let me ask. Who are you? Thank you. You can clap, it's okay. Do anything. Okay.